Hello, welcome to the news live on FakeTV.com, live at 7 o'clock. I'm Chris Bennett and this is Noel Byrne.
Thanks, Chris. Well, the first story this evening is that of the funeral of Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue, which took place today at St Joseph's Redemptorist Church near Dundalk in County Louth. Detective Donoghue, of course, was shot dead last Friday night at Lordship Credit Union in County Louth after gunmen gunned him down, and the five of them got away and they're still being hunted down at the moment by Gardaí. The chief celebrant today was Father Michael Cusack, and he said the pain inflicted on his wife and children, the community and indeed Ireland at large was difficult to put into words.
Yep, Father Cusack went on to call on the government to not cut back on policing, saying people in rural areas were living in fear of a rise in violent crimes.
It was interesting listening to the live broadcast of the funeral mass today. The priest, Father Cusack, kind of following on from that point, said that his parents live in a rural village in Galway, and he had spoke of two elderly men aged over 80 that have been recently attacked. They had their head bashed in, was the language he used. And the cause, he said, was that one guard used to be in the village and he has since been moved on. And it was, an interesting call for him to bring that point up because, of course, the Taoiseach was there, the Minister for Justice, the President, many other members of the Cabinet. So it'll be interesting to see if the government, maybe backtrack on some of their most recent announcements.
U-turn on that. Yeah, absolutely. Interesting news coming out of Israel today. An unnamed source has suggested that the Israeli Air Force blew up a convoy last night as it was crossing the border from Syria into Lebanon. There has been an increased presence of Israeli jets in Lebanese airspace over the last week after the Israeli Defense Minister was pulled back from the conference at Davos. The concern in the region is over both chemical weapons and conventional weapons, including anti-tank and anti-aircraft guns, falling into the wrong hands, potentially crossing the border from Syria into Lebanon and falling into the hands of groups like Hezbollah. Israel have gone on record, the Vice Premier Sylvan Shalom has gone on record saying that if control of these weapons by the al-Assad regime does slip, then Israel is prepared to intervene in the Syria conflict.
The UN's Ban Ki-moon made a statement today in relation to Syria's troubles, and he denounced the unrelenting horrors that are taking place in Syria, and he also asked how many more people will be killed if the current situation continues. Interesting remarks. He was more commenting, asking for money to be brought forward that they could help tackle the situation as opposed to any troops, which might actually be more useful.
Yeah, it was a call for humanitarian aid and development funds to be sent to Syria. The problem with that is that, really that is in itself, whilst absolutely needed, is not going to end the conflict there. Paradoxically, the strange thing about Israel's statement, and obviously the statement about the fact that they will vehemently protect their own security in terms of if these weapons do get proliferated into the Lebanon. Interestingly, that a country, backing itself up for its own reasons, not humanitarian, may just be the one who actually steps in and ends the conflict.
Yeah, it'll be definitely interesting to see how that unfolds over the coming days and weeks.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's much time left there. Moving back closer to home though, and today VHI Healthcare announced that it is increasing its prices by 6% next month. This is the 5th price increase in the last 2 years, the last coming in November 2012. They said the reason for the increase is due to a rise in the number of claims being made, but also that the costs associated with those are increasing, and as well as the ageing customer base.
Yeah, the opposition have already called on James Riley to step in and halt the increase. They've asked for the VHI to look for cutbacks and cost savings elsewhere.
Yeah, James Riley, refuting those claims, has said that if he didn't step in before the announcement today, the rise would have been even higher again. So I don't think there's going to be much more that will be done on that front. VHI were, kind of putting out the point that they own 50% of the marketplace, which, a lot of people may condemn. There should be more competition. But at the same time, they're saying that they pay almost 80% of the claims across the country. So
it's a big disparity there.
It's exactly. So it's a tough one for them, but it's even tougher for their members today. You know, in the recession at the moment, rising costs across the board.
Absolutely, and I suppose really medical, insurance and is something that you can't really do without.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a captive market, unfortunately, and potentially we may see more of these increases.
As I said, this is the fifth in about 2 years. The last one only, less than just a little over 2 months ago. So I mean, who's to say come March that there won't be another one? Moving abroad again, this time to the US, and a very disturbing story that emerged this morning and hasn't really moved on much all day, unfortunately. Midland City in the southeast of Alabama State, a gunman yesterday went onto a school bus full of children and asked everyone to get off the bus. He tried to take 2 children hostage. The bus driver intervened. He shot the bus driver 4 times. He then subsequently died. And the man in question, who has not been named, was able to get away with one of the children.
That's right. The suspect, the gunman, has apparently fled to an underground bunker of his own making, either some form of tornado shelter or a fallout shelter type building on his own property. He's now barricaded himself in there with the young child. And police have surrounded the area, although at the moment, in terms of reports coming out of Alabama, they are staying away in the hope that a peaceful solution can be reached.
Yeah, hopefully it will be. Speaking to local station WSFA, Mike Creel, a neighbour of the man, said that he's the type that thinks the government's out to get him, and then followed up by the very Irish-sounding phrase, he's not right in the head.
Yeah, I suppose it's interesting here that you do hear of these people in obviously a lot of these type of incidents, in the shooting incidents, in the kidnapping incidents. You hear that people in the town, people who knew them, knew that there was a problem there, knew that there were potentially mental health issues, but nothing seems to have been done. Whether or not that may be a criticism of the health system in the US, that there isn't enough, let's say, help and support for mental illness to make sure that these people who would go on potentially to harm others are cared for in the right way, and potentially, I suppose, in some circumstances, kept off the streets.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, hopefully as this comes to a peaceful conclusion, the thinking and the reasoning behind, why he's done what he's done. And hopefully no harm will come to that 6-year-old child. I'd hate to be that young child's parents. They must be going through absolute horror at the moment, not knowing, if the child might not even be alive.
Yeah, it's a terrible situation. Yeah. As we say, the police are urging caution at the moment in terms of their negotiations. Yeah. Whether that will last the length of today is debatable.
We'll have to wait and see.
Have to wait and see. Coming back home to Ireland now, and the Road Safety Authority have released interesting figures that say the average number of road deaths in Ireland decreased by over 50% when they compared 2004-2006 to 2007 to 2012. 162 people died on the roads in Ireland in 2012, compared to 181 in 2011 and 212 in 2010. Interestingly, Leitrim and Laois recorded 100% reductions in the number of road deaths.
This was an interesting story today, and that the announcement was made because only earlier this week I wrote an article on effectively.com about road deaths, but it was in relation to the amount that we've had so far in January. It's currently at 17 people killed on our roads, and that's up from 9 last year, so that's almost double. So unfortunately it's been a bad start to the year, so whether or not that's going to continue.
It does, because if you look at that, you've got essentially 10% of last year's deaths on the road have already happened in 2013, and we're not that far in. Do you think, Noel, that the increased amount of deaths that we've had in the first month of this year are a result of adverse weather conditions, etc., or do you think there are other underlying issues that potentially haven't been solved or maybe have got more lax?
Hopefully it's just a random spike. I really, really do. But, even towards the end of 2012, some people were worried that maybe Irish drivers were becoming a bit lax. I suppose the statistics for January do show that as well. There are a few things, I think, that you can pin down some of the reasons for the increase. As you said, bad weather is one, but I think some of the responsibility has to go back to the drivers that are out there. I mean, I frequently see people using their mobile phone on the roads as they're driving, often in kind of, we'll say, tricky scenarios, whether they're manoeuvring around a city or between lanes, and they're holding a phone up to their ear, which of course can get you now three penalty points. But people don't seem to really mind that rule and seem to be willing to break it. And I think, accidents are easily taking place.
Do you think speed comes into it a lot?
Yeah, very much so. Especially on roads where there isn't a speed camera van. You always see people going above the speed limit. You can usually tell if a person doesn't know the roads because they seem to be whizzing by everyone else who's going a bit slower. But I know motorways, not a lot of accidents happen on the motorway compared to more the rural roads, which seems to be where more the road crashes occur. But on the motorways, people just seem to completely disregard the 120-kilometre speed limit. I've seen people go past me and they must be going at least 100 miles an hour. That's miles.
It's an interesting one, really, in terms of what the government and let's say the road authorities can really do about it. I mean, they have got a large budget, they have put money in, but we will have to wait and see in terms of that. Yeah,
and there's also some odd things I've spotted on the roads, that you'd wonder, after you've spotted them, has their car journey gone on to cause an accident? Earlier this week, I seen someone brushing their teeth as they were driving.
Yeah, I've seen people try and create lanes out of thin air. That's always been a good one. So yeah, there do seem to be some odd practices, shall we say.
I was told of one before. Now, I didn't see this, but a friend of mine did, that they actually witnessed someone playing a tin whistle while they were driving.
A tin whistle?
A tin whistle.
I'm assuming, Noel, that you have no penalty points on your licence,
I currently have no penalty points on my licence, thankfully. And I'm starting to recognise where the speed camera roads are.
So you'll be speeding then?
I'll be speeding less.
Less, excellent. Our final story of the night is an interesting one. Leeds, that horrible place, has been given the honour of being named Moob capital of the UK. That's man boobs.
Man boob.
Man boobs. Moobs. Yeah, it's by a survey by sweatband.com, said that 59% of those people asked in Leeds admitted to having moobs.
Is it a huge problem? As in, did they have to demonstrate them or anything, or was it just like, yeah, I have them, get over it?
I think they were happy to admit them. Although, having said that, 3/4 of the men interviewed for the survey did say that having man boobs affected their confidence.
It's a funny one. I mean, do men who are really self-conscious about it, do they feel like they need to wear a bra or some sort of
training
moob
bra
holder?
A moob holder. I actually strangely looked into this a little bit, and you can buy a man's brassiere to hold the moobs at bay.
Okay.
Not sure how many of these Leeds gentlemen are taking part in that, although 42% of them did admit that they'd thought about corrective surgery at one time or another. Wow. So this would be moob reduction surgery.
Well, I think the important thing is, if you're watching this and you do have moobs, is put down the Kit Kat. There's someone there that can help.
Yeah, that was probably the best story of the night.
Yeah,
there.
Best pun ever.
Yeah.
Thanks a million for watching the news. Don't forget, tonight at 8 o'clock here on FECTV.com, Danny McMahon has the music show, so do check that out.
At 10 o'clock, we have a show all about prostitution, so that'll be an interesting one as well. Check it out tonight at 10 p.m. live on FECTV.com.